Welcome back. Today I'm going to try to solve some puzzles on chess.com as part of my puzzle run number 5. If you're not familiar with my channel, I'm not a chess coach or a titled player. I'm just a random person who enjoys chess, and I am trying to get better at it. Puzzles is one way that I try to do that. If I remember correctly, I made it over 2100 in my previous video. Yeah. And I just paused and went and checked my previous video, and I did indeed make it to 2113 in my previous video, which it shows here. So I am not sure why it's saying that my highest rating is 2059 and that is my current rating. It does look like chess.com has finally fulfilled their promise to have new puzzle ratings, difficulty settings, and more consistent experience. Well, it's less consistent if I made it to 2113 and I don't actually have that score. That's frustrating. I wonder if it mentions here that it's going to change our rating. Okay, here it does say you'll notice your puzzle's rating has changed significantly and it's probably lower than you remember. But don't worry, this is not simply a downward adjustment inside the same rating system. Instead, this change is the result of an entirely new rating system, and with it the re-rating of every player and puzzle on chess.com. The old puzzle ratings were significantly inflated. Because of this, they lost a lot of their meaning, as it was difficult to translate them into actual playing or tactical strength. They also made it difficult for us to accurately rate the puzzles themselves, which in turn made it harder for us to serve you with puzzles that were difficult enough to be challenging and yet not too difficult to solve at all. They say that their old rating system was too generous. In the past, they tried to make puzzles a fun and rewarding experience, and it led to massive rating inflation for players, which affected the rating of the puzzles as well. They do strongly believe that the new system will be beneficial to everyone. We're just using a different yardstick to measure your puzzle solving ability. Okay, well, that explains the little down drop here at the end. I'm going to go ahead and try to solve some puzzles, and hopefully the new system is better. I know I complained about the ratings on a lot of their puzzles in the past, and I am going to continue to try to not look at the puzzle ratings and get distracted by that. I am just going to try to solve puzzles because I do want to get better at chess. So 2059 is my new puzzle rating. I have half a mind to, reset my rating and start over, but that seems like a lot of work. It took me a long time to get back up over 2000 after resetting last time, so let's just go. Here we are about even on material. We have a weird stack of pawns in the middle. I am supposed to look for tactical motifs. One thing I notice is my king is way out here in front of my other pieces, which is weird. I don't know exactly how it got up there, and it's also weird that the king and the kings can see each other through this diagonal. Any other tactical motifs? Like, is there a pin or a skewer? One thing I do notice is that their queen is undefended, but I don't see an immediate way to get to that. I guess let's look at checks, captures, and attacks. I have a check over here on a6. That gives them two choices. I think if they went to b8, that would just be a huge mistake because I could check then with my rook here on b8, either rook for that matter. They'd have to move over and then I would have checkmate, I'm pretty sure. So I assume if I check with my queen on a6, they'll come out to the d file. And again, I can check with either rook. I don't know which one's better. I'm gonna guess this one, but it's hard to tell. But that would give them two choices to get out of check. I mean, not counting blocking with the queen, which they could always do, and I would be happy about that. Oh, I do have a pawn hanging, I just realized. I could move that forward. I don't know what difference it makes. Yes, I do know what difference it makes. It keeps them from coming out. Maybe that's the first move. Wouldn't that be ridiculous? The first move was just pushing this pawn. Let's see, can they check me right now? They actually can only check me with this pawn. And I'm not sure, but I think my best move would be to not take it, would be to move in front of it. Because if I took it, then they could check with the rook. And then I guess I could go forward, but then they could check with the queen. Yeah, it would start getting pretty dicey down in there. So I think if I played this and they checked me, I would move in front of it. But what if they don't check me? What else can they play? Because I am still threatening this check, which would force them to move over the way that I said, which would be checkmate. Or wait, what if I checked first? And they're trying to avoid checkmate, so they're going to come out this way. Then I check with the pawn, which is protected by the queen, and it is a fork of their rook and king. So no matter how they got out of check, I would win the rook, because that doesn't give them an extra turn. The problem with moving the pawn first is it gives them an extra turn, and I don't know what they're going to do. They have a lot of different moves, like getting the rook out of trouble, for example. But it's probably one of those two. I'm going to go ahead and try the queen. Oh, it was that, and now it's probably the pawn, because that's the only reason I went ahead and did this is after I saw this pawn idea. I'm going to try that and take their rook. Okay, it was that. It's got to be taking the rook, right? Because I don't have a safe check. That's a bad place to move my queen. Yeah, I'm going to take the rook. Okay, and I only got 4 points for it, which means that they did change the way that they're handling the ratings, right? Because in the past, no matter how long it took you and no matter how low rated the puzzle was, the minimum you could get was 5 points. But now we have the very first example of that not happening. We got 4 points, and that the puzzle was lower rated than my current puzzle rating. I'm not complaining about the ratings or being distracted by it. I'm just trying to figure out their new system. But anyway, I'm glad I got that. It seemed like it took a long time. Next puzzle. Okay, in this one, I am down a little bit on material, right? Because my opponent has 2 minor pieces for my rook, and they have a big wad of extra pawns over here on the queen side, that all of which are passed pawns. That is a little scary. Also, they've just attacked this rook. What, if any, are the tactical motifs in this puzzle? I don't see any pins or skewers. I do see, again, their queen is undefended, and I see that my queen is behind their lines, which is a little unusual. They have 7 pawns left, and my queen's behind them. Because it's not unusual to have your queen on their back rank at some point during the game, especially in an end game, but that's usually after most of the pawns are gone. I have a couple of safe checks here. Let me look at those because I really don't see anything else. I have this check with the queen, which they could block with the knight, but that's bad because my rook is guarding that square. I would just take it. I also have this check with the queen, which is protected by the rook. That leaves their king fewer moves, right? Because if I check on c2, their king has 2 moves there. But if I check on d1, then they only have 1 move where they can escape. But that gets them closer to the one place where they can get out. If I check on c2 first, they're not going to be able to get out this way. Maybe that's it. If I check on c2, as I said, if they block with the knight, I just take it. I'm pretty sure. I would just take it with the rook, right? If they blocked with the knight, and then I would take with the rook, and they would be forced to go down to one of those 2 squares, and then I put my queen back down there, and that's checkmate, I think. But if they don't block with the knight, they have to put the king on one of those 2 squares, and then this is checkmate. So I think this is a mate in 2 or mate in 3 puzzle, depending on which way it goes. And I'm not in check. My rook isn't pinned, so I'm going to check queen to c2, because again, that prevents them from running up through to the g3 square. Okay, they did block with the knight. Now, I think the reason that I have to take with the rook, at first I said I would take with the queen, but the problem with that, I think, is that whichever one of these 2 squares they go to, the only way that I can check again is to put my queen on the back rank, and nothing is guarding the second rank, and they can come back up here to f2 and again access that escape square. That's why I want to take with the rook first, which forces them to the back rank, and then I have checkmate. Because that escape square looks pretty good for them, but not for me. So I'm going to take with the rook. Okay, again, only got 4 points, so it is going to take a while to get my rating back up to what it was, if indeed I ever get there. Next puzzle. Okay, here again we are close to even on material, but again my opponent has passed pawns on the queen side, and again my queen is behind their pawn line. I do have a couple of safe checks. Let's see, how much danger am I in? I'm in a little danger. Their bishop's pointed right here. Their queen's not yet pointed there, but it wouldn't be that difficult to point their queen there. Plus, again, the passed pawns. I could chop off the behind passed pawn, you know, the backward pawn, but that gives them time to set something up. Okay, I want to look at my 2 checks. I have multiple checks like that one, but I'm not counting that one because their queen's guarding that square. So I have these 2 checks back here on the back rank. That either one of those leaves the king only 1 legal move because my knight is guarding f2. So the king would have to come up. And again, he's looking at an escape square. Oh, and the other safe check I was going to mention isn't safe. I was going to mention this safe check. That's not a safe check because their bishop is guarding f2. So those are my only 2 safe checks, putting the queen on the back rank. Again, that forces the king up 1, and then not only is the king next to this escape square, but my only safe checks would be basically a repetition. The bishop is undefended. I did notice that. The queen is undefended, but I don't really see a good way to check them and also attack the bishop. Wait, maybe I do, because one of my safe checks, I mentioned 2 safe checks, but if I check on c1, they have to come up. And then if I check on d2, I am aiming at the bishop. And if they block with the bishop over here, I'll just take it then. And if they move the king out, then I get the bishop. And that doesn't work if I go to b1. It only works if I check on c1 first, so I can come back to d2 to fork with the bishop. Does that seem reasonable? Because I think it guarantees me the bishop. I'm going to try that, and then come this way. Oh, and it stopped. Wait, would I have another good move? For the first time today, we're going to go to the analysis board. I'm wondering, because usually it only stops if on my next turn I would have 2 moves, not one that's really great. So here we were about even until they played that, because that allows queen to c1. Oh, I was wrong when I said they only had 1 legal move. They could block with the queen. That seems really bad. I wouldn't even expect someone to consider that. But they played their best move, and then I check on queen to d2. Well, then it says no matter how they get out of check, I'm going to take the bishop. But so why didn't the puzzle continue? Let's say that they went to h3. Yeah, the only good move is taking the bishop. Okay, well, what if they went to h1? Okay, see, if they went to h1, I would have multiple choices. And taking the bishop is the best move, but it was having trouble deciding. It says queen to d3 is almost as good. Sorry, I have no idea what that does. They could also go to f1, and then I would have multiple choices as well, including a repetition. Stockfish always thinks repetitions are just as good as not flirting with a draw. But as we said, if they went up here, which is kind of what I expected them to do, I would have only had one good move. So I think the puzzle could have gone one more turn. Oh well. Next puzzle. All right, my opponent has just hopped into the middle. Did they take something? I didn't see what was there before, whether it was a pawn or a knight. But now they're up a minor piece, because I only have 3 minor pieces left. They still have all of theirs. However, I noticed that for a very unknown reason, all their kingside pawns are missing, or a bunch of their kingside pawns are missing. So I do have a check over there. I don't know how good that is. I think it forces the king to move. They don't have any other legal move other than moving their king, correct? And then I would check with the bishop, and that, wait, is that checkmate? Okay, let's go back to the queen check. Do they have any way to block on g6 or f7? Their knights cannot get to either of those squares. Their light squared bishops in the very wrong place. They forgot to develop it while they were giving away all these pawns. I am really curious about how this game started, how those pawns got lost. Somehow they lost those 2 pawns in exchange for my 2 center pawns. That seems unlikely, but who knows? So they cannot block this. That means that their king has to move over. Can they block this? I don't think they can. Oh, but they would move over one more. And then I would take this pawn with check, right? Their d pawn, which is undefended, it would be a check. They can block that one by dropping their knight back, but then I would just take that too, and I think that's checkmate. Okay, let's try it. Check over here, then we're going to check with the bishop on h6. Then we're going to check by taking their d pawn, and by their knight, taking their knight should be mate. Oh, and I still only got 4 points for that. I felt like I got that one pretty quick. Oh well. Okay, I have time for another 1 or 2, and then I have some errands to run. So let's go on to the next puzzle. Okay, in this one, it looks like we are even on material. I have a bishop for one of their knights, but pretty close to even. I think they have an extra pawn. I have a weirdly advanced F pawn here. It looks like it used to be one of these 2 pawns that jumped over there because I still have my original F pawn. I guess let's look at checks, captures, and attacks as we normally do. I think my only check would be taking this G pawn, but that looks like it just gives up a rook, doesn't it? I mean, their king could take, and then the only follow-up check I would have would be pushing my front F pawn that I mentioned, but their queen's there, their king's there. I don't think that really causes them any problems. I mean, I guess I could push the pawn first, but then they could either go past or take with the queen. Okay, captures. I have this capture of this knight, which I assume they would take back. And then I don't know what I would have. Any other captures? I mean, I can capture that pawn or this pawn. Either one of those pawns can be legally captured right now, but any other tactical motifs? Again, that pawn is not really pinned in the normal sense because the queen is defended. If their queen was sitting up here on d7, then I would be really looking hard at that pawn, and I might be tempted to take this one, but their queen is defended. Anything else besides taking the c4 knight? That's the only good capture. Any threats? What am I missing? Tactical motifs is what I'm usually missing. Like this pawn is pinned, which means I could capture the h pawn if I had a piece aimed at it. I guess I could threaten the rear knight with a pawn, and if it moved, I mean, I assume it would move, then I could get this knight. Let's see. Oh, that knight currently is looking at that pawn, which is undefended. Okay, so if I threaten the other knight, they're probably just going to take that one. And then what? I almost moved my queen. Let's don't do that. So yeah, if they hopped in here, I guess I would have to put my queen up beside it, and then it gets away, and then I get the other knight for a pawn. I don't know. I haven't seen anything even remotely as good as that. I think I get a knight this way. I don't know what else they can do. Let's try it. Well, it wasn't that. And it only lost 12 points. Okay, that part is still the same. This is just really strange wording. They haven't updated that. I quit reading these a long time ago because it just says I can go like this. Name the move. I know it put an arrow down here, but just say I can go knights. Yeah, that's what I thought they would do. Okay. But yeah, I can go like this. Sorry, that sounds like a 3-year-old. Look, Daddy, I do this. So we were about even until they hopped in there. I have to take the knight first. And then what happens when they take it? Oh, my queen over here. Okay, I get it. If I take here, they would not necessarily have to take back, but it would be their best move. And then I would come over here to g4, threatening checkmate, which they would have to defend against in one way or another. It says they would play queen to g5, but then I pick up the free knight. Okay, I understand. Okay, well, let's just restart it. And oh, there's a new setting. It says here, choose your difficulty. I thought I was just choosing normal difficulty. I'm going to look at that really quick. Standard, that's normal, right? Hard or extra hard? Oh, well, standard's hard enough for me. Thank you. Select puzzle points. I'm doing the puzzle rating, which is, I think, different than puzzle points. That thing was weird. Always show the rating, okay? Show puzzle goals. Oh, if they tell me the goal of each puzzle, then I'm not solving it. I'm just doing whatever they said. Yeah, see, that was turned on by default when they did this last new change to the puzzle system, and that thing threw me off bad because it was just giving me the answer. It's like, the goal in this puzzle is to exploit a pin, or the goal in this puzzle is checkmate. It's like, if you already know that, then, oh my. Mistake feedback, I'd probably need to turn that off because, like I said, that's not really helpful. Chat hints. Get advice from coach when you ask for a hand. Oh, that doesn't matter. I never ask for a hand. Okay, so I don't know how much that has changed. But yeah, taking this knight, they're going to take their, I'm going to play over here. Oh, and okay, they didn't play what Stockfish said they would, but it still gives me the knight. All right, I understand it. I do not have time for another one, so once again, I have ended on a missed puzzle and ended with a much lower rating than in my previous video, but we learned some things. I'm happy that they're making a change here, which I hopefully over time will be a positive change. Although I bet if we went to the forums right now, there would be a huge hubbub about I lost all my puzzle rating or something. That's not as important to me as getting better or understanding the game a little more. Let me know what you think of the new puzzle rating system, if you have encountered it yet, or, let me know what tips and tricks you have for getting better at chess. Thank you for spending your time here, and I'll see you next time.